Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Lemire Legends. Today we are going to prep a 7-inch bluegill for taxidermy purposes. First thing we need is my trusty old trapper knife that's been through the mill. A lot of putty on this baby, but this will serve as a good scraping instrument when we get that far. A good heavy duty shears. This is a cheek scraper for fish work, obviously, for getting in underneath here, but also a modeling clay tool. But we're not gonna have to use that on this little guy. We're gonna use this knife instead right here. Also, we will be using this fish scraper, and we're gonna also use a fish knife. I know I did a perch video a long time ago, and people are inquiring, where do you get this stuff from? All of this stuff right here that you see is basically available at any taxidermy supply company. We're not affiliated with any company. If you do some research, Google different supply companies, and you'll be able to find this stuff. Fish knife, fish scraper, and a heavy duty fish shears. I'm guessing roughly $25, possibly, I don't know, $8, $12 maybe. $7-12 price range for all of this stuff. So, you know, you got a $50 bill invested right here, but it's worth it. This knife has got a serrated edge on it, so when you're doing your work, it's designed to cut between the meat and the skin of the fish without cutting through. So, well worth the money, as you'll see in this video. First thing we're gonna do, we already got our measurements on this. We're gonna put this in a mold. That'll be in the next video on how to do this. So I determined which the better side was. I like this side for the color. You know, we got a little bit of skiff right here on the top of the fish, but we can hide all of that. That's not a big deal. No heavy duty scale loss. This fin here is really nice shape, so I'm gonna elect to use this side as our show side. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna remove an eye. And again, just any type of old knife that's got doesn't have to be real sharp. If you got a sharp little tip would help a little bit. Doesn't have to be extraordinarily sharp by any means. You don't want to jack it in here and have it cut through, because then you're just creating yourself more repair work on a fish like this. And then taxidermy, of course, I always say this time is money. So what we're gonna do right here is we're just removing a little bit of cheek meat. We're gonna go up across the top of the cheek. Just slowly remove some meat. Now on a fish this small, it's really not that big of a deal and that critical that you take a lot of it out. This is gonna be filled with clay later. And as the clay dries, we can go back in once or twice and adjust our clay work in there, so you don't get a bunch of pock marks in your cheek and all that. And like I said, this isn't a 20-pound northern pike where it's more critical. This is not the end of the world. To remove everything. We're just gonna get the main part. And we are going to do a big variety of YouTube videos on taxidermy. We're kind of walking on some thin ice these days between graphic and what's graphic, what's not graphic. And fish and birds, basically, we can show the skinning process on, and the rest, you know, I don't know how that's all going to play out. But we are researching, doing some Patreon stuff for people. I mean, we get questions all the time. We sell on various platforms, different things, and questions. How do you do this? How do you do that? And I think what we're really going to do to continue this, the taxidermy, what people want to do and want to learn is we're going to set up a Patreon thing where we're going to show people how to do things. I myself have been doing this since I've been 16 years old. Not to date myself, but I have over 35 years experience doing this kind of stuff. And I like to have that tradition continue with people, showing them how to do kind of all this stuff. And that same thing, we just pop that eye out, and we're gonna take some cheek meat out right here. Same thing, just takes a couple minutes. I'd rather go slow than rip a hole there, and then when you put your filler in here and your clay, it bounces out, and then you gotta clean the skin, and you gotta prep it with epoxies and repair it. Just take your time, But anyway, see there we go. You've seen that right there. See, you don't want to rip that out. Just take your time and get her done. If you do, don't panic. It's all fixable, but time is money. But anyways, back to the Patreon thing. That's kind of going to be our goal here coming up. We're going to show a lot of informative stuff on this channel. There's going to be things people are going to have questions on, and we can get into some detail on it. But been at this 35 years. Like I said, the goal, maybe more than that, is to pass on the knowledge we have, and like everything else in life, time is money. So, okay, so I mean, fairly good. Got the cheek cleaned out. Both eyes have been removed. We determined that this is going to be the wall side of the fish. This will be our show side right here. When you're looking at a fish, this would be a left turn, considered a left turn mount, and this would be a right turn, being if it's on the wall. Okay, right, left. Okay, no brainer, but that's how it's determined when you order a mannequin from a supply company or something. This would be left, this would be right. So what we're going to do next is I nicked this a little bit right in the collarbone right here, so I remembered while I was chatting that this was going to be the wall side. So we're just going to get underneath that skin and nibble this. You just want to make an imaginary line from the collarbone right down to the base of the tail. And you don't want to go too far, because what you're going to do is you're going to end up splitting this tail open. So you want to stop just a 1/4 inch short of where the scales end and basically the fin rays of the tail begin. So we're just going to nibble right through there. Okay, and like I said, about a 1/4 inch short right there. That's about where you want to stop. And don't panic if you lose a bunch of scales on the backside. I mean, it's going to be a wall mount. A small fish like this, it's not a double-sided mount, not a competition mount. This is for commercial taxidermy. It'll be okay. So what we're going to do next here is I'm just going to make a little snip right here. Okay, and the same thing here, right? Basically, you're separating the base of the tail from the fin rays, just like that. So what happens when we come through with this knife right here, okay, you're not going to rip this, you're not going to split this tail wide open. You're just going to go slow. You're going to do it like that. And the same thing on this side. Just like that. You're going to open that up. That way we're safe. See, we separated basically the skin and the scales from the fin rays of the tail. Okay, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this pin out the side. I'm going to pin it out on a piece of cardboard. Sometimes it's nice to have these extra fins. You can use them. If this was in bad shape, you start scraping on it. On the other side, you start tearing this up. It's a very easy fix to pop a new fin on there. So I always like to save those, just like that. Just open it up and it'll dry like that. If you catch it in a day or so, you can peel it right off of there. You know, you don't want to leave it on there too long, because some of this red dye will get on that fin. But for a bluegill, that little bit of red color on that, not the end of the world. Next thing, took out the collarbone. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're just going to go underneath here and separate where the body comes into the bottom of the throat latch. That's separated. Next step is we're going to remove the gills on this fish. This little bluegill for commercial work, we're not going to have any gills on this fish. So we just separated that right there. Next step is right underneath here, just like that. Cut that loose. And we're going to remove this little bit of a collarbone that's right here, just like that. Same thing on this side. We're going to come through right here. Okay, the back of the gill cover. We're just going to make an imaginary line right to the top of the head right there. Just like that. And we're going to cut this collarbone off too. And remove all of that. Then we want to dig up inside the head here. You can feel with your shears. You just want to cut these gills right out of this fish. Okay. just like that. All right, now we're going to get into the fish skinning part of it. Okay, and you always want to go from the head to the tail with your strokes of the knife. You don't want to go like this because you will lift scales. You always got to go from the head to the tail. So we're just going to carefully, you can feel in between there, you get an idea where you're at. Separate that as much as we can. Again, head to the tail. Sometimes these smaller fish are more tedious and harder to work with than, I said, head to the tail, but once you get up along the top of the back, if you're gentle, you can pull it off. But sometimes these smaller fish are more tedious to work with than a 4 or 5 pound largemouth bass or a 10-inch bluegill. So what we're doing here is the base of the tail. Now, there's a bunch of fin rays down here. This fin goes into this meat. What we're going to do is we're just going to separate that. Take a little nip there to get started, and then you can put your fingers back on the show side of the fish and just nip a little bit at a time. And the reason you do that, you can feel that your shears does not poke through. Just take your time and go slow. Little nibbles. Okay, now we're into the head. We're done with the fin rays. We're just going to get up into the head here. And I know people in my perch video are interested in this, that they want to know more of the gill work and the head work. What you do is just, you think of this as a triangle. Okay, this way, and this way. Okay, that's basically what it is a triangle. You snip this way, you snip this way. You want to make sure you don't go through the other side of the fish, and this way. And that will remove that chunk of meat. Don't worry about cleaning that after we get the main carcass out of this fish. Okay, now what you want to do is same thing, head to the tail. You can see we're separating the skin from the meat. And I'm right-handed, so people always think I'm crazy, but I mean, everybody's got their preference, but I like to do a fish facing to the left better than one doing to the right because I am right-handed. And I get in here with my shears and I can see what I'm doing better, and I can see what's going on right here. If you're doing a right fish, okay, I'm right-handed and I'm trying to get in there to do this, but I mean, it still works, but just I'm more comfortable doing it this way. I've done, I mean, literally thousands of fish, and it really doesn't matter at this point. But I'm thinking if you want to do a fish mount, you're starting out left turn. If you're right-handed, it's shall we say, the optimal way of doing it. Yeah, let's put it that. Optimal, the word of the day. So the next thing is we're going to get underneath the show side collarbone right here. Okay, we're going to separate the meat from that show side collarbone. There's a collarbone right there. Okay, that's taken care of. I'm going to get down by this tail. And we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Now I know when you're learning, you're getting into this, you're going, oh, time is money, I want to do this, I want to do that. Don't panic. I mean, it might take you literally an hour, hour and a half to get this far in a fish. You're going to wonder what's going on. Am I going to get through this? If you lose a scale on the show side, is it ruined? No. If you cut a hole, you know, one of these fin bases, like when you're separating it, is my fish ruined? No. It's all fixable. So don't panic if something happens. You can patch it with various epoxies that are on the market. So it's not ruined. If you lose a couple of scales, your fish isn't ruined, you know. So there we are on the other side. We basically separated that down to the fin rays, the fin butts. We're going to come through and do the same thing. Fingers underneath there so you know where your snips are at all times. Not going to blow through the show side of the fish. All the way down. Okay, now we're into the pec fins right here, this set of pec fins. Okay, what you want to do, they're more of a heavy duty bone. You want to try and clip both of them off at one time, just like that. Okay, right at the base. You're going to feel with your knife or your scissors so you're not blowing through. And that's pretty much all separated right there now. Okay, the next thing, we're going to take the meat away from the tail here. We already opened all that up so you have easy access. Same thing, keep your finger back there. You can feel where your shears is going. You want to get all that meat out of there. And I prefer to do all this in one pass, so you don't have to come back and do a lot of cleanup here. Just nibble it along the edge. All done in one, just like that. And that's going to be clean enough right there. A little cleanup to do here, and we scrape with our knife, and that's all going to be done. Okay, let's get this carcass out of the way. So basically middle finger up there, holding it up out of your way so you can see what you're doing inside of there. Same thing, strokes from the head to the tail. Back in here, you want it to go slower, because this is a place you can make a big 1-inch rip real fast. Being a serrated edge or not, you can cut that open, so just take your time in there. And the rest of this is going to come right out now. Okay, this is pretty well freed up. What you want to do is you want to just compress the whole skin down, just go slow and right out. Okay, the next stage, you can use your skin scraper. You can pretty much see where the veining of these fish go. Right here you can see it goes like this. Okay, and up in here it does the same thing. You kind of want to scrape it that direction. Okay, right there. Take your time and go that way. You can go flat, whatever you're comfortable with. In fact, I've done a lot of these just with my little old-timer knife there instead of this big scraper. It's a little bit bulky for a small fish like this, but I just want to give you the idea of what's going on. Okay, and then we're going to come here. This is the back side of the fish, not too critical on which direction. You can see the meat and the veining go like this. It's not too critical. What I like to do is get right up in here, underneath the throat latch area. There's a bone right there. Just remove that. Okay, and we're just going to get all that out of there in one commercial taxidermy, one stroke. Okay, you can do one on this fin ridge right here, fin butt again, with the pointed end. I'm just going to wipe all that right out. One quick pass. Okay, hold the skin flat. You always want to keep it flat to the table. You want to have a good flat surface to work on, no lumps and bumps under there, because that will tear up the show side of your fish and it makes painting a lot more difficult. Okay, 75% of the way home. We're going to do the same thing. We're just working along that fin ray right there. We're into a little bit of belly meat here. I'm just going to work that fatty tissue back like that. Okay, now we're into the throat latch area. This can be taken care of in about 3 or 4 strokes of the knife. It looks like a big mess. Geez, where do I start? What do I do? Okay, you find out where your pec fin bases are, right there, okay? So you're gonna work those free first. Just like that. Okay, next thing is, you can see that little tip right there, where this was connected underneath here. Okay, we're gonna cut right through there, just like that. Okay, so you had 1 cut, 2 cuts, separate that. Gonna come back here, same thing on this side. Your 3rd cut right here, separating the pecs on this side. Now you can do this step with anything you have, but it doesn't matter. Your scraper, your shears, I prefer as long as I got this in my hand, just for efficiency purposes. Okay, you hold your skin tight, and we're just gonna pull that right off. Just like that. And this is that bone that a couple minutes ago we were scraping away. We're going to get rid of that also. Okay, so that's all freed up. And then you're saying, okay, well, there's a 4th cut in here. Where's the magic happen? Okay, same thing. We're just going to keep working this up this way. And you can feel when you can't go any farther, you're working the bottom of that front collarbone right there. That's going to be the end of that, okay? And the fourth cut is done with the shears. You just lift this up. You can see underneath there, little nibbles. And you cut that loose. And that's it. That's all clean. That's as clean as you need to get it. People are going to get crazy and say, well, you got to get all this little bit of meat out of here and all this, you know, but you really, there isn't really, you can see there really isn't anything there. It's all bone. And that's not going to, that's going to dry up when you put this fish in borax and water solution and it dries. That's all going to, it's going to be gone. There'll be nothing there that's going to ever create a smell or anything on a small fish like this. So that's your 4 cuts on that. That's easy to fix up. Next thing, these pec fins. Okay, what you want to do is just don't go too deep. Okay, you just want to clean it up so where you can see where they're at. Clean all that meat off of there, got a little bit of bone, and you just want to split these in half, just like this, right between the two. Okay, and on a little bigger fish, there'll be a little bit more meat than that there, but that's really all you got to do for that. Okay, and then we're going to cut through this belly meat right here with our shears. Just whittle away at that a little bit. You can take your knife, if you hold this down, and you can work at this to break some of that fatty tissue loose, but I prefer to do it with my shears because you can scrape on this all day, this knife or this knife, and all you're going to do is just rip belly scales off. So I prefer to shear it. Just take some of that fat off of there. And now you're going to get into the fin. Okay, same thing, fingers underneath. You don't want to blow through. And just want to remove some of that fin rays and the meat. And if you push on this like this up in here, okay, on the fin, you can pop that. You can protrude it through this side. You can take off a little more that way. Otherwise, you're going to be digging at this with the shears, and you'll get a feel for it. You're gonna rip a big hole there. And again, your fish isn't ruined if you tear along this. On the show side, if you rip it right here, it's all repairable. It's not the end of the world. Okay, next step. I'm gonna clean out the head. Same thing, about a four cut process. Okay, we cut that out with a triangle, 1, 2, and then we came through this way. It was our third way, right? Okay, we'll do the same thing. Like a triangle, 1. The way I say it's always 4 because you're gonna have to come in this way also. Almost like a pyramid, the 3 and then along the base for your 4th cut. And clean that all out. Now you don't want to stick the shears through the top of the head, and if you do, okay, repeat it again. Don't panic. If you make a hole, your project is not ruined. There's a saying in the taxidermy industry that everything is fixable except for rot. Oh wait, I think I made that up. But it's true. All right, so here we go. Just gonna do some cleanup here. We're gonna get in here with our knife. I'm just gonna scrape some of this back. Just get some of this meat out of here. Right up in there. Have some bone, and you say, well, when is enough enough? On a small fish like that, I'm telling you, you can leave that bone in there. That's not going to hurt anything. On a bigger fish, you're going to want to break some of that loose. You know, how far do I go? How much digging do I do? Small fish like this is all going to dry right up. You're going to have no issues. Maybe a spot like that where there's a little bit extra meat, you might want to take a little bit of that out of there. Just like that. So let's take a look what we got here. So that's going to be good enough for the head on this fish. All right, so all we really have left now is this side down here. Same thing, we're going to scrape all this down in one pass. Okay, all you're going to have left here is we're just going to lift this up. We're going to work this spiny dorsal. We're going to work the meat up right to the fin. Same thing on this side. And again, from the head to the tail, we can raise that up a little bit just so we can get our shears on there a little bit better. Once we lift that out of the way, we're good to go. And like I said, this all in one pass right here. This back side of the fish, lose a couple scales, not the end of the world. We're going to get a little rough with it and show you how this one works also. Okay, you can use that side or you can use this side. Fin raise end right there. We got a little ridge right here, nothing but meat. Take that all out at the same time. And don't go like this, because you're going to tear a big hole right there. Okay, take your time. Take that right off. And that's it. That's as close as you need to get right here. You can see that there's a little bit of meat right there you can just take off with your fingernails. You don't want to cut too much. You're going to know when to say when. Otherwise, you're going to be cutting into the skin and bone, and you're going to cause yourself unnecessary repairs. But that comes with time and experience. You get the feel for it. And for the last time, if you rip a hole in your fish, do not panic. It can be fixed. All right, so we have everything done. Cheek meat's gone. Eyes are gone. The head is cleaned up nicely. This has been scraped nice and clean. The last thing we have to do is remove this ridge of bone and meat off the spiny dorsal fin. Okay, and we're just going to keep working this. Coming with your shears. You're going to get a feel for this. Fingers underneath again so you can feel where your shears is at. Clean that right up. Now there's going to be a little bit of meat on the sides right here. And I suggest you just nibble at it a little bit. Don't take 1-inch freaking digs like that, because that will make an unnecessary hole. So just a little at a time. Just like that. That's plenty clean enough. So there's the first third. And you want to keep the skin as flat as you can or as straight as you can so you're not popping scales. If you start doing this kind of stuff and start bending it and getting crazy, then you're going to pop scales on the show side. So, a little at a time. Leaving the skin again as flat as we can. I know I make this look fairly easy, but this comes with a ton of experience. I've done a lot of these fish. And there's always somebody that can do it faster and better, and that's just the world we live in. But this has always been efficient. It worked good for me, and I'm glad I could share some of this information with you. And the next video we're going to do is we're going to take this fish and we're going to put it in a plaster mold, basically, and we're going to show you how to use a product called fish fill to stuff your fish. Real simple, easy process. So this is all cleaned up now. The next step is we're going to put this in some borax and water. There's no special formula for the borax water. Just I mean, maybe a quart of water and a teaspoon of borax would be more than enough. I mean, I've done a lot of fish, and there never seems to be a magic formula as to how to preserve this fish. So, I mean, I actually ran out of borax one time and I had 2 fish like this that I did without preserving at all. I put them a little bit of bactericide, like a Lysol or something like that, for 5 minutes, took them out, and I mounted them, and to this day they still look as good as the day I did them for a friend of mine that's got a cabin. They were probably 11-inch bluegills, and that was 20 some years ago. So the preserving act isn't too critical on this. Borax probably is your best option, you know, especially when you get into bigger fish. But these bluegills this size, and like I said, up to 11-inch, 12-inch bluegill, whatever, it's not too critical. But yeah, thanks for watching, and again, you can do your research. You can find all these products at your any taxidermy supply company. They carry all of this, and I strongly suggest spending the money. You might have 2 or 3 different types of shears. This is a Klaus, C-L-A-U-S-S. I mean, it's a little more money, but this one's been around the block. No problems with this loosening up. This will break bone on a 20-pound northern pike, no problem. And it doesn't split apart. These don't bend. This is a jaw getter, so don't scrimp when it comes to a good quality shears. It'll be worth it on your arms and your wrists in the long run. All right, thanks again. We'll see you on the next one.